Place your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please take a seat. And state your name for the record.
It's Drew Pinciaro.
Pinciaro, sorry for calling Mr. Pinciaro for a little while.
It gets butchered all the time.
Now, Mr. Pinciaro, where do you work?
I work for Gallagher. I'm a commercial insurance broker.
How long have you been there?
A little over 2 years
Now, before you worked there, where did you work?
at the Greenville County Sheriff's Office.
And did you work at the under Will Lewis at one point?
I did.
Okay. And can you tell me roughly when it was you left there, so we have kind of a date in mind as to?
I left beginning of August of 2017.
Okay, so you've been there from January through August during his administration in 2017?
Correct.
All right, and what was your position working for him there?
Public information officer.
Can you tell me what a public information officer does, what you did there?
Typically, our daily duties just included dealing with the media. Anytime we had any, say, calls regarding something going on, we would give responses. We'd deal with, we'd assist the sheriff in any type of speeches or events that he may go to and help him prep for those. A lot of times we would attend.
In what way would you help him prep for those?
We would write speeches. We would maybe write just some notes for him, just really depending on what he wanted,
Okay.
and help him prep for whatever event he had to attend.
All right. Did you also at times schedule events for him to do in public?
Yeah, there were times where people would call us, or we would get things passed off to us and schedule, speeches for them or whatever.
Now, as a public information officer, you're saying we. Was there another public information officer?
Yeah, it was Ryan Flood and I.
All right. And so, when we hear the term PIO, that's what we're talking about, a public information officer?
Correct.
Okay, and so the two of you would work there. Did he also work for Sheriff Lewis at the time?
We did.
And how long had you been there again at that point, at the end of your time at the Sheriff's Department?
Total?
Yes, total.
12 years. About 12 years, yeah.
So you were a certified law enforcement officer during that entire time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so, did you know who Jackie Cooper was as you worked there?
I did.
And who was she?
She formerly, well, still when Sheriff Lewis was there, but she was the secretary or the administrative assistant at the time when Sheriff Loftus was there, the previous sheriffs. So, and then when Sheriff Lewis came in, she, I guess, remained still doing what she did.
Okay, so she worked directly with the sheriffs?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and can you tell me between, well, before I get to that, with Savannah Neighbors, when did you first meet her?
It would have been when Sheriff Lewis first took office in, I guess, January.
Okay, and what was your understanding of what her duties were there at the Sheriff's Department?
To just essentially just be his assistant to,
Okay.
I guess, fill or supplement what Jackie did, I guess, in a sense.
All right, and as far as what you saw that she did, can you tell me, with you and Drew and Jackie Cooper, the work that y'all did together, did y'all pretty much kind of cover that work prior to her coming?
Leading the witness. Well, don't lead your witness. You can answer the question.
Prior to Sheriff Lewis, yes, between me, Jackie, and Ryan at the time, and with the other previous PIOs, we handled, scheduling sheriff's events, writing of speeches,
All right.
all that stuff.
And so, did you stop going to public events with the sheriff at that point when she came on?
No, we still attended some events with him.
All right. And so, did you stop writing speeches or anything like that?
Did not, no,
Did she ever write speeches for him?
no.
All right. And if he had asked you to take notes during anything, would you have done that for him?
Absolutely.
All right. Did you still accompany him to a number of meetings and that sort of thing?
We did.
And when you accompanied him, would Savannah also be there?
Yeah, lead the witness, I would object to this.
I don't believe I'm leading, Your Honor. I'm just asking questions.
Well, you're asking yes and no questions, and indication you're leading the witness.
when you went to meetings with the sheriff, who or anybody else would be there?
It would be me, Ryan, and usually Savannah.
Okay. And so, was that kind of just, how would you characterize that? Would that be in addition to what you had already done?
As far as previously,
Yes.
no, like when Sheriff Loftus was there, we still would attend meetings with him. I mean, I guess it was nothing different really. We attended events with Loftus as well as Lewis.
So your job, did it change between the two sheriffs?
No, it remained the same.
Okay. Now, can you tell me, from what you observed between Savannah Neighbors and Will Lewis, what, if anything, can you tell us about how you perceive their relationship?
It just seemed kind of like a big brother, little sister type relationship.
All right. Did she address him the same way you addressed him?
Most of the time it was Will. She addressed him. I mean, depending on the setting, there were times maybe it was Sheriff, but most of the time it was Will.
Okay. And as a public information officer and a deputy, how would you address the sheriff?
Sheriff.
Did you ever just address him as Will in the office?
Typically, no. I mean, it was usually Sheriff.
Now, can you tell me, during the course of while you were there, is there any time that something stuck out to you as being odd regarding their relationship or trouble in their relationship?
I mean, really the first, I guess, incident that happened that, I guess, when she left, there was a Spartanburg, I think it was a Spartanburg County or city officer that died. We were attending his funeral that next day. And we had talked the day before about me, Ryan, Savannah meeting in the back lot with Sheriff and driving together. And she didn't show up that morning, and so I asked, I was like, where's Savannah at? And Sheriff said, oh, she's got to go down to Florida because I think her brother-in-law at the time had some medical problems, and he said she was going to go down to attend some family issues with him. And so that was that. And then through that whole day, you know, he had remained on the phone with her multiple times and seemed kind of, I guess, distressed or under pressure, or, you know, he was just acting kind of worried, I guess, in a way, when he was on the phone with her. That was kind of the first, I guess, issue that I saw with their relationship or anything happen. I was kind of surprised that she wasn't there.
Okay.
Because everything was fine the day before that I knew of.
All right. And so, and going back, this was a Spartanburg County officer or deputy or city officer who died in the line of duty?
Yes.
And is it usual? Is that something you all usually do if someone passes
Yeah,
away in the line
typically,
of duty?
especially, I mean, if it's local, usually all law enforcement pay their respects and attend the funeral. There was a pretty large presence of law enforcement officers at his funeral that day.
All right. Now, can you tell me when y'all went to the funeral, did the sheriff, as he was there with you, did he attend all parts of the funeral with you?
He went in the service, and then when we drove to the graveside, he stayed in the car on the phone with Savannah, and then Ryan and I got out and went to the graveside service.
All right. Did he make it to any of the graveside service?
No.
What was he doing when you arrived back to the vehicle?
He may have stepped out of the car when we walked back. I can't remember if he was still in the car or if he had maybe stepped out of the car because I remember Craig Welch, I think, being there, and they may have talked. So he may have stepped out after we got back to the car.
All right. Did he talk to you about anything regarding Savannah after that?
Not really. I mean, he just said that she was going down to Florida, and then I think it was maybe the day after, a couple days after, he had mentioned she had quit or was going to quit. And I think in the car, he had mentioned about her, or there was conversation about her wanting to quit or something, and you know, he's like, you know, basically said she's not going to quit on me, I'll fire her type thing. And that was kind of that. And then it was maybe, I don't know, a few days later or so that she eventually, or it was kind of known that she wasn't coming back or she had quit.
What, if anything, while you were in the car with him or trying to go back and forth to the funeral, did he say about any communications, having any communications with Savannah?
It wasn't in the car. It was the day, I think it was the day after. It may have been that afternoon we got back. It was after the car incident that he had made a comment to Ryan and I. He's like, you know, if I was you guys, I wouldn't talk to her. He didn't tell us not to. He just said, if I were you guys, I wouldn't talk to her.
And so how did you take that then?
I took it as I'm not going to talk to her or communicate with her.
And you didn't, did you communicate with her
No.
after that? All right. So after that, the day she left, were you actually there the day she left, or the time she left?
When she officially got her stuff?
Right.
No, it was, I think she came in early that morning, and I think Craig Welch maybe escorted her out or handled that. I wasn't there when she actually came in.
What, if anything, did she do to try and say goodbye to you and some of the other officers?
She left a note on Ryan's desk just saying, you know, it was great working with you and Drew type thing. That was about it.
Okay. And so had you really had any contact with her after that?
No, I've not contacted her one time.
And is there any point that you started having some red flags or some concerns about what had happened between the sheriff and her?
Yeah, so like she eventually, I guess, came and got her stuff, and then it was a couple days, or I guess a couple days, I don't remember the exact time frame. She quit, and then it came out that she was getting, or that Sheriff Lewis had got her a job with DSS, and that's what she was going to go
I
do.
would take that as being hearsay. It came out, it has to be kind of a hearsay statement.
Sustained.
Can you tell me, was there a memo released by the sheriff?
There was a memo released.
And what?
To my remembrance, the memo did state that she was going to DSS, if I can remember correctly. So that came out, and then at some point within that period, he came to Ryan and I again and said, you know, if you guys want to reach out to her, you can, you know, maybe just kind of see how she's doing type thing. And I never did. I mean, from the first time when he said I wouldn't reach out to her, I wouldn't talk to her, I just kind of, I'm like, I'm not getting myself involved.
All right. Is there any, what if any time did y'all hang out after work during this period of time?
There were a couple of times, so like Live PD was filming during that time.
All right. Can you tell us just briefly what Live PD is?
Yeah, it's I guess kind of like a cop show where they film law enforcement. It's pretty much real time.
And were they filming that with some of the deputies here in Greenville County?
They were, yeah.
Okay. And go ahead, explain what you were going to say.
So I don't remember which night was first. One night we were watching Live PD because it was like on a 30-minute lag, so we would sit in the conference room, watch the live feed that was coming in, and then if there was obviously any sensitive information that had to be taken out, we could call Live PD and say, hey, let's not show that. So we were all up there one night doing that, and Sheriff Lewis and I were walking down the stairwell, and he made a comment about, I guess, her quitting or whatever, and said, can you believe she's trying to quit? I've got her salary raised, and at the time I thought she was making 55-ish or so, and he may have told me 55. I got a pay raise from like 55 to 72,000, and I jokingly said, I'll be your assistant for 72,000, you know, and that was that. But at the time I thought, if she's quitting, why are you trying to get her a pay raise of 17,000 for someone who's trying to quit? So that was, I guess, kind of the first red flag,
Okay.
if you will.
All right. And was there any others?
And then there was another incident after a Live PD night. Me, Ryan, Lance Sheik, who was the attorney at the time, and Sheriff Lewis went out after Live PD, and Sheriff Lewis and Lance were speaking with each other, and Sheriff Lewis made the comment to Lance. He's like, "What does she have on me? What can she say about me?" And
Who
Lance
is he
said,
referring to, she?
"Savannah."
Okay.
And Lance
No
said,
objection what Lance says, you can hear that.
Can't say what somebody
Okay.
else said, only
All right.
what the defendant said.
All right. Go ahead. What happened after Lance answered him?
so then Sheriff Lewis responds and says, "Excuse my language." He says, "I could have fucked her in the back lot of in the LEC in my Tahoe, but today I don't know where that bitch's head is."
All right. And so when you say the LEC, is that the law enforcement center?
Yes.
So that's where the Greenville County Sheriff's Department is
Mm-hmm.
located, and that's where the sheriff's office is located.
Correct.
What, if anything, did you think at that point in time?
Still at the time, truthfully didn't know that anything was going on between them. Just based on, obviously it was a red flag, and I kind of thought it was kind of odd that he made the comment, but to say that I 100% knew that there was still anything going on between them, I had no idea at the time.
Okay. And now, you had mentioned when you left for your job, did the blog or the lawsuit happen before you left?
No, so it was 2 weeks after I left. I was in Chicago, and Brian called me and said, "Hey, did you see the media where Savannah released the blog?" I was like, "No," and that's when I found out.
And describe to us, what were the circumstances of you leaving the sheriff's department? Was it amicable?
Yeah, I had been looking at at this job really for almost 2 years prior, so it was a long process.
So you were trying to be hired by the insurance company, I guess, for the last couple of years?
Correct.
At this point? Okay.
Yeah.
And so is that when they offered you the job, I guess?
Yeah, they offered me the position in April of 17,
All right.
so that's when I got my formal offer.
Okay. And so then you went with them, and have been with them since, is that right?
Correct.
Now, when you were an officer, describe some of the training you had to go through as an officer.
Countless different types of training. I was on the dignitary protection team, so we did a lot of training with the Secret Service on dignitary protection. I've been through PIO training, PIO classes, SWAT training. Just numerous types of.
Is there ever a time that in the line of duty that you were shot at?
There was a call, where there was a gentleman inside his mobile home and was shooting outside and shooting from inside out, and rounds were coming out, and me and another deputy had to retreat. And had we not moved from where we were standing initially, one of us or both probably would have been hit in the head.
Okay. And can you tell me again, how many years total did you work there?
12,
And what was your final rank while you were there?
master deputy.
And as master deputy, what was your final salary when you left?
We got a pay raise that year. I think it took effect in July. I was around, 40 or 41, and then when the pay raise took effect, it brought me to like 44 or 5,
Okay.
right when I left.
Court's indulgent for a moment now. Thank you. I have no further questions.
So based upon your observation of what Ms. Nagers did, you assumed that her salary was in the mid-50s?
I had thought I'd heard that and I believe Sheriff Lewis made that comment to me that night when we were walking down the stairwells. And
That didn't overly shock you or anything?
I didn't really think much about it.
Now, what hours did you work?
Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and then, we would be on call, so potentially weekends and nights.
If a call came in?
Yeah,
But you were normally out by 5?
typically.
Okay. Did you ever write a specific speech for Will?
I'm sure, I don't recall exactly which speech or bullet points it may have been, but, we
I don't
prepared.
remember which one. And when Savannah left, I believe Addie Hampton took her place?
She did.
And did you know her?
I did.
Do you know her before?
I knew her through being a PIO.
She used to work in the television.
Yes, she did.
Okay. And she stayed that, well, she was there when you left.
Correct.
Okay. And she basically did the same thing that Savannah did as far as the sheriff's concerned.
Yeah.
You know, she went to crime scenes with the sheriff?
Who?
Addie.
Addie? To be honest with you, I don't remember. I don't remember her. I don't remember being on a crime scene with her off the top of my head and Addie being there.
Okay. Fine. And when you said that you observed that Savannah and the sheriff were close, it was a mutual closeness.
Again, I didn't know Savannah prior to when he took office, so I just assumed that they knew each other from the past, and it was just like a brother-sister type relationship.
Did you later learn that they had worked together at the Bannister Law Firm?
Yeah, I knew that, or known that, yeah.
And the closeness you saw would be consistent with their having worked together for a number of years?
Well, I guess one could assume.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Please, Ray.
Just briefly, Your Honor, you had mentioned crime scenes when it came to Addie. Did Savannah go to crime scenes?
She'd been to some, yeah, I don't remember which ones, but yeah, she,
Were you there as well?
yes.
Okay, and what do you do as a PIO at a crime scene?
Typically our job, and depending on the crime scene, when Sheriff Lewis was there, he was typically out on, I would say, more crime scenes than Loftus. So typically our responsibilities when Sheriff was there, Lewis, was to get the media kind of huddled up, kind of help him gather the information of what took place and craft a response to the media, and then he would usually address them. And that was typically our duties on a crime scene.
All right. And did Savannah help you with those duties?
No,
Do you know what she did at any crime scene?
I do not.
Okay. Did you see any official capacity for her to be there?
No.
And speaking of Addie Hampton, who was hired after Savannah left, as you had said, tell us a little bit about her experience that you were aware of when she was hired.
Addie's?
Yeah.
She was formerly with WSPA and was a reporter. So I guess her coming in was obviously her experience with the media and dealing with the media. So that was kind of, I guess, her background per se.
So as a public information officer, would you have ever dealt with her?
I did on multiple occasions. Yeah, that's how I knew her.
All right. So you all had some relationship with her at that point, at least
Well,
professionally.
yeah.
And has she been doing that for a long time?
I want to say she'd been doing it maybe 3 to 5 years. Addie at the time.
All right. All right. Thank you. No further questions.
Just wondering, the civilian ride-along frequently went to a crime scene that a car was called to the crime scene, is that correct?
Like if there was a civilian ride along?
Right.
Correct.
And of course, it's not a crime for a civilian to go to a crime scene under those circumstances.
No, typically a civilian wouldn't be allowed in a crime scene.
Big difference between going to a crime
Yeah.
scene and into a crime scene.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, she's making that. Switch to excuse.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. City Hall Lieutenant Rick Dove.